So thank you. Welcome to Project Review Committee for January 2024. My name is Oscar Cepeda. I am the Associate Planner here with the Community Development Department. We're going to go ahead and start Project Review Committee at 1:34 p.m. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and do roll call. Again, we're joined by myself, Oscar Cepeda, the Associate Planner. We're also joined by Claudia Calderon, the Active Community Development Director. We're also joined by Jeff O'Neill, the City Planner. We're also joined by Rocio Mejia, the Assistant Planner. We're joined by Javier Sanchez, the Engineering and Project Management Director. We're also joined by Michael Knight, our Public Works Director. We're also joined by Clayton Dignam, our Fire Marshal. We're also joined by Brianna Spry, our Field Services Refuse Superintendent. We're also joined by Joe Baeza, our Field Services Street Superintendent. We're also joined by Mark Acevedo, our Police Department Lieutenant. We're also joined by Fabian Resti from our Economic Development Department. I believe that is all from city staff. Yes. And with that, we're going to go ahead and open oral communications. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on any matter pertaining to project review. Being no members in person and no comments from our online public, from our online, I'm going to go ahead and close oral communications. So with that, we do have 2 items on the agenda. We're going to go ahead and start with the first item, which is PRC number 2023-048. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here on the site plan and floor plan for the proposed new use. As far as the project itself, the applicant is proposing a change in occupancy, which is also a change in use classification for the establishment of Rare Tumbling Academy, which is classified under instructional services. The property is located at 33 East Mill Avenue. The property is zoned downtown retail north of Olive and has a general plan land use of downtown retail. As far as comments from the planning department, the use is a permitted use of instructional services in this zone district. As far as comments on the development itself, if there's any future signs proposed, making sure that we comply with our downtown design guidelines, or also any changes to the exterior of the building, also complying with our downtown design guidelines. If we're proposing any temporary signs for the use, making sure we apply for a temporary sign permit, which can be utilized in the meantime while a permanent sign is established. As far as establishing a new sign, for example, the zone district allows up to 2 square feet of signage per linear foot of frontage. And that's gonna be pretty much comments from our planning department. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to our fire department with Clayton.
For the fire department, for this proposed project, just need NOx access and fire extinguishers placed as required by the code.
Thank you, Clayton. Next, with with Brianna from Field Services.
So this one. Yes, thank you. This is one I'm going to have to work with engineering on for the trash enclosure.
Would the new use trigger a new enclosure?
Well, Mike, do you have any comments on this one?
Well, the process has been, so yes, I mean, the change in use, the fact that we're coming to PRC triggers the opportunity to address the deficiencies. So under these reviews, we've identified that this area is underserved with trash service. At a minimum requirement, it requires a 2-bin enclosure, so a general waste and a recycle bin for service. It would trigger a 3-bin enclosure, and we're going to have to work through that. The state is specifying that there is no exemption from a 3-bin enclosure, that all enclosures should be addressed as a 3-bin enclosure because of the unpredictability of the future occupancy of all businesses. And so as we work through that, of course, in this case, the biggest challenge and what Brianna is referencing is trying to work with the occupant and engineering to figure out how we could service this address with a better trash enclosure to accommodate mandatory recycling and trash service. It would require a waiver for the organics because this business is not going to be generating any organics. So a waiver will be necessary for that. However, we'll need to coordinate the opportunity to improve the trash service to meet the required legislation for service. So I don't think we'll have a complete answer for you today. I think we can work with the occupant and coordinate with engineering and try to come up with a solution to address the trash service. Just knowing, I guess, putting on notice that we'll need to coordinate that process moving forward to make sure we're meeting the legislative action on service for this particular property.
Just a quick question, Mike. When you say it needs an exemption from the organics, is that dirt strip on the east side and to the south side? Those are part of the parcel, correct? Because if they're going to be doing weed abatement or landscaping or anything in those areas, wouldn't they then be producing the organics?
So through the waiver, we would identify whether or not the occupant is performing that work, or if they are going to contract that out from a landscape service. If they're going to contract it out, that's fine because they'll self-haul those organics. However, if they're going to self-perform that, then we would try to accommodate the organics, and we have some flexibility in there. In the new rate structure, we've built in the opportunity to utilize commercial can service for facilities. And that may be another option with this as well, is a commercial can service for this occupancy. We just need to work through those details a little bit and have a little bit better description on how to move forward with that. If that may be the option that we settle in on. However, that's not our first option. Our first option in this downtown service area is to continue every effort to maintain bin service. So that will probably be the outcome of what is the resolution, but we need to work through the opportunity to implement bin service at all costs. So we'll get you that response for the write-up that you'll be receiving. We'll have those details worked out, and you should receive the final determination after we coordinate with engineering into the advisory notes that you receive.
Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
Thank you.
While I'm on that, if you want, Oscar, I can address the water comments. I do have David Payne in my office attending this meeting as well. The only comments we have from water is that this occupancy requires a backflow device, which it does not currently have. So an approved backflow device will need to be installed on the water service for this facility. And we can also accommodate that. We have a mechanism to where once it's identified, we can meet with the occupant. Should they choose the city to install it, we have the ability to sell you the device and install the device. It's time and material. Or you could have a plumber install it, and then the city would certify the device once it's installed. And then that's all the comments from Public Works.
Thank you, Mike. Next with Javier.
So just to understand the scope of the project, it's the applicant just proposes a move into the space, not really have any permit work.
To add information to that, Javier, James did mention that let's see, that they would need plans submitted for a new wall split that was completed in the large open space into two areas. And I believe he made he confirmed that there was no permits. And that also that the new plans for the new restroom plans for the new restroom that was installed without permits, and also that the bathroom must be compliant with accessibility.
Right.
Yeah. So that was comment from building.
And those all sound pretty minimal, so engineer won't have any comments only because the permit evaluation is going to be so low. Engineering comments are really only once we start hitting the threshold of, like, we're at 28,000 and change now, so we wouldn't expect the cost to be that with just a wall and a few restroom upgrades, so no comment.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And then Mark, with our police department, any comments on the proposed project?
No comments, sir.
Thank you. Now, does the applicant or agent have any comments or questions for staff in relation to the project presented?
Yeah, I just have a question, or not really a question, but just a comment on the trash. If the size of the site can be taken into consideration for a standard trash enclosure, there's absolutely no room on the site for anything to be constructed. Everything would have to come from either the alley or from the parking lot, and there's just no room for a standard enclosure. If the bins can be considered, I think the owner would consider constructing this covered storage for the bins, so they would be hidden out of sight and just brought out when they need to be empty.
Chris, just for clarification on my part, you mean the cans?
The cans, yeah, right.
No, we've been through this in other areas on the downtown service area, and you're absolutely right. We don't disagree with that. It's a highly restricted space, and we can look at that and take it into consideration. Just for the benefit of this discussion, I want you aware of both options, and we'll take that into consideration during the review. Previously, what we've done in other areas is the landscape area was modified to accommodate the enclosure. So there's some coordination with the city on that in that process. But let us take a look at it, and we'll definitely get you that answer back.
That's all we're asking is consideration because, one way or another, something's going to have to be done either with the public parking or conceding to just the smaller bins or the containers.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only comment.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll outline each department's comments on the letter based off, again, the project presented, and we'll provide that letter to the applicant in 2 weeks time frame. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now, second item on the agenda is PRC 2024-003, in which the applicant is requesting city municipal water services for the future development of a single-family home. All right, let me pull up that project real quick. All right. So the property is located in East Porterville, outside city limits in the Tulare County's jurisdiction, but the property is in the city's urban development boundary. It is currently on a vacant property at APN 263-220-014. The city's pre-zoning has designated the property as low-density residential, and it does have a general plan land use of low-density residential also. As far as comments from the planning department, we did verify with the engineering department that the property was not included in the state's feasibility study as part of the East Porterville water connection project, due to, at the time of the project, the property was a vacant and not developed during that time frame. As far as proceeding, if a property located outside of city limits is requesting city municipal services, we do have a process to try to achieve that, which is through an annexation or an extraterritorial service agreement, as outlined in the city's procedures for water. Such connection cannot be made unless city council authorizes an annexation or an extraterritorial service agreement pursuant to the city's annexation and municipal services. All water services connection shall comply with all applicable codes, including but not limited to the Porterville Municipal Code Section 26(2), which requires the abandonment of wells upon municipal service connection. So let me pull up that property here. properties located here. So Jeff, not sure if we could comment right now, if the applicant was to proceed with an annexation. What would be an area that could possibly work or be supported? I know that we're gonna have to also coordinate with Tulare County LAFCO. But at this time, are we able to identify more or less an area that would be required as part of this application?
I don't really think we can identify that. It could be as simple as the 2 parcels to the south. Although LAFCO tries to not create peninsulas nowadays. And they also may consider that if it's just those 3, then the area to the southeast of those, that kind of where the city limits kind of wraps around it there, would be considered substantially surrounded. And they thus might require inclusion of additional properties to the east. And so those were kind of, I would imagine, those would be kind of the 2 extremes. One where only 3 parcels are required, and the other where, close to what I would guess a dozen or more would be required. So we would really need, if the applicant wants to pursue that, we would need to talk to Tulare LAFCO about that and get their feedback, which they're willing to give outside of any formal determination. They can let us know informally what it is they would be comfortable taking to the commission to get that the annexation to proceed.
Thank you. There are fees associated with the annexation, which will outline in the PRC letter. It may be dependent on the size and configuration. If we could possibly make it a minor or a major annexation. Once we outline that, we'll provide those fees in the letter. So yeah, that's pretty much our comments for planning at this time. And with that, we'll continue with the other departments with our Public Works Department. Michael? If any comments?
No comments this time.
Thank you. Javier, with engineering, any comments at this time on the project?
No comments from engineering either.
Thank you. Moving along with our fire department with Clayton.
My only comments are going to be contingent upon whether or not it's actually annexed into the city or not, which would mean that it would have to, the project proposing the single family residence would have to comply with the fire code, water supply access and all of that stuff. So if it is to be annexed into the city, then I will have comments related to during the building permit review.
Thank you. Any comments from field services, Brianna?
No comments.
Thank you. Any comments from our police department with Mark?
No comments.
Thank you. I believe that is all from city staff. Are there any questions or comments from the applicant or agent at this time?
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to say that, the owner would much rather go with the extraterritorial service agreement rather than the annexation, just because the annexation would be cost prohibitive. And I don't know if there's any way is there a distinction or how, you decide whether you go from one or to the other, but that's what he would prefer.
Yeah, we'll make a note. We'll see if, this project may meet an exemption, for the proposed project, an exemption from annexation, and possibly go through an extraterritorial service agreement. It is my understanding there are certain findings that you would have to meet. So yeah, we can evaluate that and provide, that process in the PRC letter.
Okay, sounds good.
Are there any additional, questions or comments at this time? If not,
Just a quick question,
go
Oscar,
ahead.
for the applicant. Is there a
Yeah.
well located on this parcel currently?
So there currently isn't what I would call a well. They have those old, it's not, well, technically it's a well, but they used to just drive pipes into the ground, it's like 15 feet deep in one of those like hand pumps,
Yeah.
but that's all that's on there. There's no other service. It's kind of like little, it's kind of a flag lot, so there's not any other services in there.
Okay, so it's a point driven well currently?
Yeah, it's a point driven well. I mean, it's not an official well. I checked with the county. They don't have it registered or anything like that. Which doesn't mean it's not neither here nor there, because those things are all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, just curious. Thank you very much.
Huh.
Thank you, Mike. So yeah, we'll provide each department, comments and process moving forward in a, letter to the applicant and agent in about 2 weeks timeframe. If there's any questions, after today's, meeting, feel free to reach out to, myself. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and end, today's, project review committee meeting at 2:02 p.m. I would like to thank everybody for, joining us today. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.